Hi, this is Ken Larson, and I am a realtor in Northwest Arkansas. If you've ever thought about buying land before, you're overwhelmed, don't know where to start, we're going to answer your questions hopefully today. We're filming for land in Arkansas, buying, selling, and developing. We're going to start here with the property that I'm going to list here this week. It's a friend of mine, so no feelings will be hurt, but this land actually fits every parameter I want. And it's when you get into the land side of it, and I'll give you some background on myself. I've developed almost 100 acres here. I've run short-term rentals, remodeled cabins, built cabins. We're in the process of building one right now on a mountain over. So I'm pretty familiar with this area. We're in Mountainburg, Chester, about 30 miles south of the U of A in Fayetteville. The thing about land, when I first got into it, it can be a little intimidating because when you drive around the country, a lot of people, they don't trim anything. They don't make it easy for you to see. You're just driving along the road and you're looking at a bunch of trees. You have no idea where to start. We're going to try and cover the things that matter, and then we're going to touch on some things if you want to sell that are smart things to do. This particular owner is very intelligent when it comes to land management and selling. Going back to buying a residential house, when you drive up to this land, we came in a road off of I-49 and we are at the end of it now. I like to look around and see what's in the area. You can see over here, you've got a beautiful home and you know what kind of pond that is, Brent?
I do not.
That's a pretty ass pond right there. It's well maintained, taken care of, and the land we are looking at in question is on the other side of the road. So the main things from my standpoint, and these are my parameters that I look at, I like options. I like to, I enjoy the land first of all, but I also want to be able to do short-term rentals if I want, just build something for my enjoyment, or all of the above, and also developing. So I look, do you have water? Do you have electric? Do you look at the survey? Do I have road frontage? Road frontage is a big thing to me. And this particular property is a rectangle. I love rectangles because if I ever want to, I can break it up into smaller pieces. And I'm leaving something off here, Brent. Then you get in and you look at building sites, and I said water and electric. But you pretty much start out here. We've kind of done a little footwork, obviously, and Brent, you can see there's electric lines above here. Depending on where you're at, a lot of electric companies will give you about 500 feet of free line. After that, it's on you, so be aware of that. We've also looked at the water situation, and I called this particular water, I don't know, authority, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
There's several of them, which, you know, you learn interesting things in this little area. There's actually 3 that I'm aware of, and they all charge different amounts for taps, etc. This home is on a tap. The water line, we believe, is running down this side. We're not 100% sure, but it really doesn't matter because I talked to the gentleman, and he said, in essence, we're fine here, but you can go under the road. They will actually bore the road for you. That is $250. The water tap in this specific situation is $1,000. Now we're going to walk along this road here to get an idea on what's going on this property. So what's interesting about this property, we've already established the water, the electric, the aesthetics coming down here, and the survey, as I said, we kind of cheat it because we have it. But we know that the property runs all the way down here. This gate was actually put in by the property owner's neighbor. Their land runs down to, I think, roughly that first pole. This is another thing to be very much aware of. What's great about this land is you dead end right here, and I know the property owner over here likes having it gated off. You could theoretically move this gate to the front of this property and have complete seclusion and privacy. Not all realtors know some of these things. I don't mean that good or bad. They deal with homes more often. It's not a huge deal, but there's just a lot of little nuances that you've got to be aware of when dealing out here. But like I said, I think that is the end of this property. So you can get an idea, this has a lot of road frontage, which again, from what I look at, is great.
And it looks like just pure jungle right there, and that's what it is. But it's pretty level going up, and you can get into some, as we'll see in a minute, we're going to go up to some building sites. There are multiple places up there that you can put an awesome house, cabin, whatever. So let's go check it out. So Ken, we're at one of the main building sites right here. I'm just going to do a spin around. It's pretty big. You can fit what, probably a 6,000 square foot house or bigger right here if you wanted to. Few cabins, whatever. But what are you looking for when you're looking at a property for, you know, whether it's cabins for Airbnb or, you know, personal home site? What are you looking for particularly when you see a piece of land?
So if you notice when we came up here, Brent filmed the trails. And I'll back up a little bit. In essence, we already know water, electric, the road aesthetics, which is important to me, and the layout. I'm gonna start actually with the survey a little bit. This land in particular, and again, this is a very astute landowner. They're actually down there trimming right now. This is part of a larger property. You will see that a lot up here, or you'll see something that hasn't been surveyed in 50 years. The way this land is going to be cut, you already have 2 corners. Where you're going to have 4 corners in any property, that's how they do a survey. So really all you have to do is finish those 2 corners. That is a cost usually to the homeowner as well. And like I say, this is already set up that way. Again, I could just tell looking at this is a property that would be a good buy for someone. I'm not trying to sell it because it is my listing, but I am trying to sell it. These trails, this owner has cut these trails around the perimeter of this. I like to do this on my property as well, just more for my enjoyment, but it also allows you to see everything. And quite frankly, when you're going to sell something, if you are selling land, it makes it easy for someone to come in here. I mean, we're wearing shorts obviously today. I helped them trim a little bit the other day. You don't wear shorts when you do that. The next thing I look for is building sites. This site hasn't been cleared here, but of the 20 acres in my driving around here, I know of probably 4 sites, very easy. You can see you kind of have to get in this, you know, in the land to find out what else you have. It's sort of like a surprise sometimes, and most times it is a good surprise if you buy the land right. Behind Brent, you actually have a wonderful west-facing view. You just can't see it because of the trees. And I will get into that in a different episode of developing land and how to, you know, how I do that at least. As far as clearing, I don't like to clear cut trees. I like to clear views. And you could punch in this area right now and get a wonderful sunset for yourself. But here's a building site here. We're going to run down there and look at another building site. And as I said, these trails are fabulous up here. It's hitting on everything. If I had a pen, I would actually mark some of these things off, but we're too lazy to go back up the mountain and grab the pen. So we are on one side. We will be on the north side of this property right now. We're going to go back over to the south side, and we're going to show you the pond, which is another big thing that, you know, if it's on there, grab it, because depending on the size of the pond you're going to build, it will cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 to do a pond right now.
So Ken was just talking about how if you punch a hole through some trees, you can see an epic view of some rolling mountains in the distance that are a couple miles off. And this is east facing, west facing. So you get a great sunset in the evening, and it's absolutely right now it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's absolutely stunning. And so just to give you a quick picture, this camera doesn't do it justice, but it's absolutely glorious over there. So tell us about the procedure. What steps do you have to take to get a house on the land? What's necessary? What checks and balances do you want to make and go through as you're buying the land to make sure that you can actually build on it?
Okay. Backing up, the site we just showed you is a great site. It's just not cleared. The site we're on now, we actually cleared this site, and as Brent mentioned, it's hard sometimes on a camera to see the view, but this is a gorgeous sunset view. And I think we can plug in some pictures we have of the sunsets up here, because my property faces the same direction. Now we're on a building site right here. This is a great area. It's elevated. It's actually overlooking the pond, which we'll show you in a minute. And you're at the point now, if you like everything else you've seen, a lot of people like to get a perk test before they buy the land. It is not a bad idea, because if you buy land and it doesn't perk, you're looking at an extremely expensive septic system. They can usually come up with something, but you may not like it. It could blow your budget, out of the water. And Brent and I were talking about on our way down here, when you get into wells and special septic systems, a well on the cheap end is going to cost you $10,000 to $15,000, and a lot of people don't care for them these days. I do, again, short-term rentals, and you can read on Airbnb or whatever you want. People complain about well water all the time. It's a nice thing to have if you want to get off the grid and do it, you know, more power to you. It doesn't fit my parameters. But this is hitting on my parameters right here because we just saw the trails. Love the trails. Now we're in the building sites. And my big one in this area is the views. I love to sit out on my patio and look out over the sunset or the sunrise, either way. That's you're buying the vistas here, or at least for what I look for. And you have all of that right here. So the perk test, what you need to do, it's the Health Department of Arkansas that oversees it, for lack of a better word. And they have contractors who will come out and they will dig a hole. They're looking at the soil to make sure, I'm not an expert at it, but to make sure it drains. So you will need to either hire a backhoe, you can actually rent one too. There's multiple different ways of doing it, whatever you're comfortable with. But that perk test, and I'm being probably on the high end, is going to cost you, I'd say, between having your septic laid out, because they will lay out how the septic system needs to be done also, it's going to cost you about $1,000. So you need to plan on that. And that's kind of where you're looking at on the building site to make an offer. I would be ready to make an offer on this property right now because it fits all of my parameters. Again, you may have different parameters. Just know what they are. Know exactly what you're looking for and explain it to the right person that can guide you in that direction. Brent, you tell me, should we walk down here or just get on and do a trail ride around and show the pond and everything?
I think let's do a trail ride. And before we do that, if you guys have any questions, any curiosity about talking and picking this guy's brain, this is Ken Larson. Reach out to us via email, text, whatever. Days, nights, weekends. He absolutely loves answering your questions. He is a resource, a suppository or repository. Which one is it?
I prefer neither.
Of knowledge. And so just for all the state troopers that are watching, since he speeds up and down from Fayetteville, he drives I
drive a Subaru in Northwest Arkansas. Okay, we made a quick trip around a trail. That home site we just looked at is actually overlooking this pond. There's another great site up here that is overlooking it as well. They're both elevated, which is what you want, because you have just a built-in water feature. This pond, you know what kind of pond this is, Brent?
No, what kind of pond is this one?
This is a big-ass pretty pond. To try and replicate that today, this pond, I'm gonna guess you're looking at $20,000 or $30,000. So be very much aware of that. I know he stocked this with some fish. I don't know exactly what he has in it. It's a great feature. It's basically a water feature. They are literally clearing out around it right now. And when you see a pretty pond, you have a home up here overlooking it with the view. That to me is another sell on this property. You're hitting on all cylinders for doing short-term rentals out here. Again, touching on the location, and you're very close to U of A. It's very difficult to get cabins up at the U of A during game seasons, really pretty much any time anymore. It's difficult to get a short-term rental up there. So this to me is a great area. You're close to the city, you get out in the nature a little bit, just a beautiful area. And like I say, these ponds, that's just another thing to put in the back of your mind if you find a property. Hopefully this property, quite frankly, because I don't know if I've mentioned it, this is one of my listings and I'd be happy to sell it to you. This is a great setup right now, and just imagine sitting up on this elevation, beautiful patio, drink in your hand, watching the sunset over this pond. Okay, we've taken a look at everything in this episode, what you need to look at. I think we've covered the most important parts of it on a couple of functional notes. I do not drive a Subaru. Brent does. It's maroon. But if you need to contact anyone on land, contact me, please. This sign here, if you look at that, it says Ken Larson with my phone number. That's not too obvious or gratuitous advertising going on there. It's been fun. Love this area. Again, I really am into land, if you can't tell. I think options, options, options.
So make sure to do all the YouTube buttons, like, subscribe, comment, let him know of his wardrobe choices, whatever you got. Make sure to do all the YouTube buttons. Till next time.
And let me touch on, I do have a Facebook page for this particular area. It's Facebook at Boston Mountain Real Estate.